As the applause from the sound effects box dies down, may I bid you welcome to this, the launch of Jenny Rowbory's book. Hello, my name is Paul Kerenza. You have names as well, I'm sure. In fact, many of you are joining in live here on YouTube. We are live, I should say. If you're watching later on, you're most welcome as well. Unfortunately, I can't speak to you quite so easily if you are here watching later on. But hello to those of you who are watching live. We've got Tanya Marlowe. Hello, Tanya. A key part of this whole project, I'm well aware, from Kent. We've got Janet Wheeler. More from Janet coming up later as well. Joe Castles, Ursula, Sarah H, Rianne, could be Lineker or could be Linecar. You can tell me. And many more as well. Hello to you. Thank you for joining us this evening. It's 7:32. It's Guildford. It's balmy. We're so near the equator. I'm in my Hawaiian shirt. It's incredibly warm here today. It's the dog days of summer. But we are here to celebrate this. We Are the Winter People, the collected poems of Jenny Rowbory. In the course of the next half hour, we'll be celebrating this book and Jenny, and we will be having some music, some poetry, and some behind-the-scenes activity. Speaking of behind the scenes, you can see, let me guide you through. We have the board game backdrop here. Many people have bookcases behind them, normally advertising their own book or others. I should have this up there, but then you can't see if it's behind there, so I'm going to have it here much closer. So welcome to you. Thank you for being here. Now, Jenny, there's loads of information about Jenny. If you don't know who Jenny is, the website you can go to for more on her is jkrowbory.co.uk. And there's a fundraiser. That is really, really crucial. GoFundMe.com/SaveJenny. I'll be given a link here as well that says UK.GoFundMe.com/SaveJenny. Maybe there's a different Save Jenny in a different country. I don't think so, though. There's only one Jenny, and we've got to save her, because basically that's what this is all for. It's all to raise money for that. Jenny was born in 1986. She's a brilliant writer, a poet, an all-round good egg, and she became ill in 2004 at the start of uni. This virus caused severe myalgic encephalomyelitis. I've been practicing that all day long, and that will do. It's an inflammation of the brain and the spinal cord. So as a result, she has been bedbound, very sadly. 2015, she had a diagnosis of Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, which basically, and there's loads more in the book and on her website, but essentially speaking, her neck can't support her spine or her skull. So therefore, this is a book launch with a difference, because the author is not here as part of the book launch. Almost ironically, in a sort of muted celebration of such a thing, I was going to, we're here to, at a book launch, you raise a glass, you raise a bag of crisps, you raise your spirits, whatever you want to raise in celebration of the achievement of a book. And I found a party popper, so I thought I'd do the party popper, but there's no string. Look at that. I mean, look at that. I mean, what are you supposed to do with that? It's unused, so there's explosion in here and streamers waiting to pop, but no way of making it pop. Well, I thought if that in some way doesn't sum up some aspect of Jenny and the slightly muted celebration, shall we say, as part of this book launch, but we are going to celebrate anyway, because she's a marvelous poet, and that she deserves celebrating, and that's what this book is for. But also, it's about the money. It's about raising those funds. So if you haven't already, GoFundMe.com/SaveJenny, and make sure you grab a copy of the book. It's available in printed paperback book, it's an ebook, it's an audiobook, and here's something we found out today, that today it's been the Amazon #1 bestseller in the inspirational and religious section. So there you go. If you're browsing on the Amazons, I don't know if you're aware of Amazon, it's a fairly well-known online bookshop. #1 in the bestseller of inspirational and religious. That deserves a round of applause. Thank you. It goes on a bit, doesn't it? So speaking of going on a bit, I am not going to go on too much here, because we have various guests via videos, via pre-recorded things to come. So I will try and keep you not much longer while I'm here. Tanya Marlowe, I see your comment saying, we have names in capital letters. Hello, I know you have names, Tanya Marlowe. More from you later. We've got Sweden joining, Rebecca J from Sweden. We've got Laura from Skipton as well. Hello to you. Hello. Saffron Walden, Janet Wheeler and Saffron Walden. You're all very welcome. Right, so if you want to contact Jenny, a few links I wanted to get out to you. books@jkrowbory.co.uk, books@jkrowbory.co.uk. That will go through to Jenny's parents, Ian and Anne. And by way of introduction then, let me just very quickly tell you about the title of this book. We Are the Winter People. is the title of the book, and it comes from a line from the first poem in the collection. It's called Spring, and that poem is all about hope. And however many times over we've been stampeded by, it says here, these steely-heeled clompings of hope. Now, I like to pretend I'm not reading that, but how can you not read the phrase, the steely-heeled clompings of hope? Marvellous. Left in a bloodied heap. When what you've desperately hoped for does not come to pass, again and again, somehow hope sneaks up on you. It's quite magical, even when all is lost. So there you go. That's what those lines are about in this book. In the first poem of the book, Spring, which was, I believe, written for Tanya Marlowe. We have names, Tanya Marlowe. Yes, indeed, you do. And you have a poem that's in honour of you as well. We Are the Winter People is the book. Get yours now. I will wait. All right, get yours later. Paperback, ebook, audiobook. Now, the audiobook, that's what I want to talk about first of all. And that's our first video. It's a long video, okay? So make sure you stick around. It's about 10 minutes and a bit. But we'll be here waiting for you when you get back. With music and poetry and marvellousness until 8 o'clock or just after. I have a feeling we may overrun just beyond 8 o'clock. So the first video I want to show you is featuring two marvellous people. Angharad Price, she's an actress, a voice actor, a singer, a writer. You can find her online AEJ Price. And Elliot Frisbee, good friend of mine, monkeynutuk.com is his company. Now, he makes audiobooks. He's produced the audiobook of this fabulous book. So we would like to hand over to them as Elliot and Angharad, Annie Price, talk us through the making of the audiobook of We Are the Winter People.
And welcome to Monkey Nut Audiobooks. My name is Elliot Frisbee, and I had the pleasure of producing and recording We Are the Winter People. And
I'm Angharad Price. I am a voice actor, and I very much enjoyed narrating We Are the Winter People, so it's my sultry tones you can hear on the audiobook there.
a very, 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 very good voice actress she is too. Phenomenal. So welcome, and I just want to start by saying that this is a really important audiobook. And not just for the reason that we know we're all here, but the fact is that Jenny's poetry is phenomenal. And poetry needs to live on. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely. I mean, this is more than just a fundraising effort. This is absolutely a legacy. And Jenny's poems are so powerful, so beautifully written, and I think will really endure. So it's really humbling to be part of something that will endure and will live on.
In fact, that's what we actually spoke about. So before we actually start recording an audiobook, we discuss and we talk about the direction. We went through each poem and talked about the energy and took on all the notes on board that were given to us pre the recording date. And one thing that we was talking about was that this book is a legacy, and it's so funny because so much poetry is lost in the world, isn't it? So much talent is lost, and I think to be part of this, creating something that will live on forever is truly inspiring. And one question I wanted to ask you, which I thought everyone would find really interesting, all of you lot out there, is all of you, cheers, is how now you have narrated so many audiobooks, like a ridiculous amount.
Many audiobooks.
Exactly. And many different genres as well.
Yes.
But when you approach something like poetry, how do you prepare for something like that? And also, how do you approach poetry like this, which has so much depth, so much understanding, something that you can also resonate to?
Oh, very good questions, Elliot, may I say. So initially, I would say that poetry is completely different to, say, a narrative audiobook, something more traditionally fictional or factual, in fact. But the idea that poetry has such a lyrical and sort of melodic feel to it makes it completely different. So whereas I would normally approach an audiobook, say, with more focus on the characters and the voices and what we're doing here and what we're doing here, more sort of a technical aspect, I think poetry is really about the feeling. So how I would prepare and how I prepared for We Are the Winter People is just to give them a cursory read through first, then to read them vocally and to see kind of what emotional resonance sits within the poetry. And then I go through with a good old highlighter and find any sort of internal rhymes, anything that I think the poet is trying to say within the text, if that makes sense. So rather than it just being very face value, seeing what is hidden in there, what is trying to come across, and really focusing on anything that is sort of assonantial or sibilant or anything that's kind of literary values, and then really focusing on them. I also tend, when I'm having a good read of poetry, to have a good old cry.
Which happened.
Which did happen.
Which happened. Just want to point that out.
To get a good old catharsis out, because I always find it's so touching to read someone else's poetry, especially someone's like Jenny's, which is so incredibly personal, dealing with her struggles with pain and disability and her faith and her religion. It's incredibly intimate stuff. And I am a bit of a crier. So I definitely cried on Eliot when I first met him, about 3 poems in, I think.
And I'm going to jump in on here, and because when you're producing an audiobook, it's really important to tap into that emotion, because like if you're reading a book, for example, let's just say you're reading Where the Winter People or poetry, you've got lots of different senses. You know, you've got the feel of the paper, the book, you've got the book cover, you're using your eyes as well as the smell of the paper and things like that. But with an audiobook, you've only ever got your ears to trigger off the imagination. You see, so hearing those breaks in the voices is really important. Now, we don't want full on when you're narrating. You don't want that.
It only happened once.
But you do want people to pick up on the emotion of that, and that's really important.
And the resonance as well, like you're saying, it's so visceral. I think a lot of poetry is so incredibly emotional and so visceral that if you, as an actor, if you hold back on that and if you try and be like, very much like, oh, once upon a time, Elliot Frisbane and Harry Price were in it doesn't work. You really have to allow yourself to feel, and it does occasionally compromise the recording process when you're like, all right, I have to stop. But generally, it comes up with something very raw and very real, and I think hopefully that's come across in this collection.
Absolutely, and it does. I'm really proud of this. I'm really proud of what we have created. First of all, my favourite word of the day is visceral.
Visceral. It's very visceral.
So that's my new favourite word of the day. But what's important as well with your voice, because I love your voice. You've got a gorgeous tone, and when you get your copy of We Are the Winter People, you'll hear it as well. Is choose little things like choosing the right microphone. So we choose the right microphone to really pick up with a large diaphragm, really picked up the ambience of your voice. But one thing which you did incredibly well. Now I've literally narrated, I don't even know how a lot of people, recorded so many people, from A-list celebrities to emerging. I've
to me, at the bottom of the rung.
No, you're not.
No, I'm not.
They love you.
Sorry, please carry on.
So you've lost my train of thought.
I'm sorry.
No, there are so many people, and many people, they think they can narrate, but often they can't. But one thing you've got, which is just stunning, is a natural flow to the voice. You've got these natural kind of accents, and I think, would you agree that with poetry, knowing when to put those little kisses on the words, I call them, is essential?
100%. It all comes down to the rhythm and the sort of melody of poetry. If you read poetry like you read text, it would sound absolutely naff.
Robotic.
Absolutely, and completely lacking of emotion. So I think it's that combination of knowing when to take a step back, when to put an accent on it, or when to sort of let it be what it is. And there's so many wonderful bits of poetry that Jenny has that are so effective and simple and beautiful that they don't need more. Do you know what I mean? There's always something that's just as it is. So I think it's the combination of doing those 3 things and trying to do them well.
Absolutely. And the audiobook isn't the first time you've been associated with the poetry. So why don't we talk about that a little bit more?
So I'm trying to remember how I got directly involved, but I was involved in the fundraiser that I think happened last November 2020 for Jenny. And I was lucky enough to read some of her poetry then. So I was initially asked to read a Maya Angelou poem, The Caged Bird, which was really lovely and one of my favourite poems anyway. And then I was asked to do a couple of her poems, which I think were Gethsemane and For Right Now. For Right Now has actually become my favourite of the collection, so I'm very flattered and honoured to have read it twice. So yes, I was involved directly there, and then ended up speaking to Jenny's family, and sort of settled on me as the voice for the audiobook, I think, based on those poems, which was nice.
I'm glad they did.
I'm glad they did too.
I'm glad they did.
Yeah.
I got into it. This is quite funny, actually. My mother-in-law.
Ah.
Yeah, mother-in-law. And you don't argue with your mother-in-law.
No.
But how can I explain this? So Jenny's dad's sister's friend is my mother-in-law.
Did you follow that?
And
This is it.
and I'll be honest with you, I get a lot of people approach me.
I bet, yeah.
A lot, you know, can you put this work out? Can you do this? Can you record this? And it is hard having to say no sometimes, you know, but that's business. But
so can I ask why was it Jenny's project that you said yes to? What was it that was so...
It's quite simple. My mother-in-law told me that. No, because I said to her, well, I'll say to you now, and I said, I need to read it. I said, I need to read it. I said, I don't need to read all of it. I said, I need to read some of it. Yeah. And if it resonates with me straight away, because poetry, I'm a huge lover of poetry. I love poetry. One of my favorites is The Soldier. Just breaks me every time. But anyway, when I got these through, and I must admit, I'll be honest with you, I actually put the cause second. I'll be honest with you. I put the cause second. I was like, right, okay, I get it. And I will get involved any way I can for this, but let's focus on the poetry. And the poetry stands for itself. And that's why I said that, yes, we want to raise as much money as we possibly can and really, you know, hit that target. However, for me, this poetry needs to be heard. And that's why I invested. That's me being completely honest. I was like, this poetry is phenomenal, you know. So I read through some of it, and some of it really sort of got to me, and especially like from the relationship with God and everything as well, and that journey and how the faith remained there, even though there were so many testing questions. And I found that really resonated with me. And then of course, so I knew it was something you feel, you know. So I was like, yeah, I want
very
to be
visceral. One might say.
one might say
One
that.
might say.
So I wanted to be involved. And then as soon as you started reading it, everything just clicked into place. Like, yeah, this is a great project. So we hope we've done you proud.
Yeah, I love that you're thinking, you know, very much the poetry comes first, and obviously the cause is phenomenal and the cause is great, but I just love the fact that it resonated with you so much that you were like, this needs to be heard, this needs to be done.
Absolutely. I've been working in audio for coming up to 24 years now.
Wow.
And I've worked on a ridiculous amount of projects. And if there's one thing that, you know, one thing that's really important is that you have to work on what you believe in. Yeah. That's really important, you know, because if you just record any old thing or get involved with any old thing, you're only going to half-assed be involved with it.
Can we say that?
I said it.
Can we
I
say
said
that?
it, I know.
See, that's really interesting because obviously for you, the poetry comes first. For me, I think the cause came first. And then I was so happy to read the poetry and be like, oh my goodness, this is phenomenal. But I would have done it anyway, just because the cause itself is quite
tell everyone a bit more about your connection with that, and because this will make sense why you were so emotionally invested during the recording.
Yes, so I also have EDS. I have EDS type 3. So Jenny and I have similar conditions. Obviously, Jenny is in a very, very severe state, and I am very thankfully not in a terribly severe state, which is I'm very grateful for. But a lot of Jenny's poetry really touches on, I think, the struggle with chronic pain. And this is something that I struggle with. And obviously the idea of EDS and hypermobility in general is that you don't produce enough collagen, which in turn means that you are a bit lax and you dislocate, or you subluxate, which is like a smaller dislocation, or your joints move. So you end up with quite a lot of joint pain. And in recent years, mine has progressed a bit more aggressively. I've had to have a few operations, a few things here and there to try and get things sorted. I spent a little bit in a wheelchair, which was a very disheartening experience because people treat you differently when you're not physically able-bodied, as I'm sure a lot of you have experienced, because I think it's quite a universal thing. Even if you're not disabled, even if you don't have a long-term pain condition, the idea that once you're not 100% up and running, the world sort of treats you differently. And Jenny's poems really, especially, I think that's why 4 right now is my... Sorry, woo, calming down. This is what happens.
This is what happens. I got to record that, you know?
I think something like 4 right now really resonated with me because it's about her kind of enduring strength in the face of adversity, and yet she knows that her condition is very difficult, and not just difficult for her, but difficult for her loved ones, and that's sort of the message. And I know that I've, I'm very grateful for my friends and family, to them for sort of looking after me when I've had difficult times. I'm sure that Jenny is for her parents, Ian and Anne, who I know are doing a fantastic job taking care of her. But I think for me, on more of a visceral level,
Do you feel like in the top corner we should have like numbers popping up, ping, ping, each time you say it?
yeah, it really resonates with me. And EDS is still reasonably unknown. I mean, when I was diagnosed, when I was 15, it was not really a thing. Now it's becoming a bit more of a mainstream thing, but it's still quite unknown. It still has not a lot of knowledge about it. It's still, people can progress in very different ways, and people's symptoms can be very different, and it can be very complicated. And I think just having an anthology of poetry that has this kind of undercurrent of an experience and a knowledge of this condition, for me was just amazing and so powerful. So powerful.
Well, you were certainly the perfect person to read it. So we really hope you love it. We loved recording it, and it's out now. We are the Winter People on all audiobook platforms. So go and get yourself a copy. Tell your friends. And please, please, please leave a 5-star review. That's so important. I can't stress it enough. Please get your copy, and as soon as you've got your copy, you'll be able to leave a 5-star review. Give it 5 stars, tick all the 5 stars, and just leave a nice comment so other people, because that's when the algorithm kicks in, and other people will be able to get drawn to that audiobook and enjoy it themselves. So please tell your friends, share it, and let's just raise a beep load of money. All right, so you enjoy it, and my name's Elliot Frisbee.
And I'm Ann-Harriet Price, and thank you for joining us today.
Thank you.
Well, there you go. Thank you to Ann-Harriet and to Elliot of Monkey Nut Audiobooks. The audiobook is available, so you can not only buy this to read yourself via the paperback or the ebook, you can actually go and get the audiobook. The link to that is in the notes of this here YouTube video. So you can, there's one of those short links. So instead of it saying audible.co.uk.long thing, it goes to something like audible.thing. So you can click those. Amazon, it is, as we said, #1 today in the religious inspirational section. Well done to that. Indeed. And your comments are continuing to come in. We've got Jane Andrew watching from Sydney, Australia, where it's 4:30 in the morning. Now that's effort. Well done, you. Hi there to Jane. We've got, who was it saying? I saw this a minute ago. Tanya Marlowe was saying heated up, and I took ages ago. Heat what up? But of course you were talking about the thing a few minutes ago. You mean this, don't you? The party popper with no string. How? No strings attached. Hey, sorry, the jokes don't get any better. Heated up. We've got the in fact you can probably see it occasionally reflected in my glasses if I sit in the right position. We've got the ring light just off camera here. I realise I do look a little spooky because when we set up it was beautiful daylight. I think we get here, we get the natural daylight, and now it's pitch black. That's what you get this end of summer. So we could hold this next to the ring light and see what happens. It might explode in my face. It's the chance you take. Now, before the next video, which is, we've got a fantastic piece of music for you next, I wanted to read one of the poems myself. This is from the book. This is Can't You Be a Magician, God? Can't you be a magician, God, if only for one day? Forget about being wise and good and do exactly what I say. Can't our prayers be spells, God, if only for one day? The right words in the right order, and bingo, we'll have our way. Make me better now, Lord. Please, no more delay. I want to force your hand, Lord, to make my illness go away. The poems in here are just marvellous. Many of them are much longer, and I would take up all of the time reading those. But get hold of a copy, you can read them yourself. Now, the next piece that we want to show you is going to be introduced by Jenny's cousin, Neil. Now, Neil Ferris is a conductor of renown, and he is going to tell us all about exactly what happened with one particular poem. Now, this relates to someone who I know is watching here. Yes, indeed, you know who you are. Janet Wheeler. Janet is a composer, and there's a marvellous choral group called Sonor, and Neil will tell you all about it.
Hello everybody. After Jenny's last fundraising event, the composer Janet Wheeler wrote to me and said, I'd love to set one of Jenny's poems, and this is it, The Cosmic Pied Piper. I was really delighted that both Janet wanted to do that, but also Jenny was happy for this to happen. And beyond that, the piece that came back to me the very next day is one of Janet's most sparkling and wonderful small choral works. And we were really delighted last week to be able to record this piece. Janet captures Jenny's poem superbly. The idea of looking out to the universe, out to the stars. There are two soprano parts that act in echo, so you can imagine the calling, but the calling sort of echoing around the universe, if you like. And I am so delighted that this piece has been recorded, that Janet has written such a wonderful piece, and I hope that this is a faithful representation of Jenny's beautiful poem.
Amazing, amazing, wonderful. Isn't it incredible when people work together? Poet, composer, conductor, choir, marvellous, beautiful. Thank you so much to all of those involved with that. Janet Wheeler is the composer. She's here on YouTube Live. Well done to you, Janet. It sounds incredible. Sonoro there you heard. You would have heard Jenny Bacon, Joanna Tomlinson, Martha McLaurin, Neil Ferris himself, the conductor, Stephen Kennedy and Tom Herring. Well done to you guys. It sounds lovely. just love it when you find the right poem, you put it to music, and it just sounds incredible. Thank you for joining us. If you are still you're still watching the book launch of this book, We Are the Winter People by Jenny Rowbory, the collected poems of Jenny Rowbory. Now, do not forget though, this is also a fundraiser. So you need to buy copies of the book. I said copies, okay, not a copy, copies, okay. I'm thinking particularly of the paperback. I mean, you can buy lots of copies of the ebook, but they're slightly trickier to distribute amongst your friends. But copies of the paperback and or indeed buy a copy and then go to gofundme.com/savejenny. The other thing you can do is this video is being watched by a few dozen of you, but we can get this out there wider. When the video is finished, it will remain on the YouTube, and then you can share it on your Facebooks, your Twitters, put it in an email. You could print out the video and post it through a letterbox. That doesn't work, does it? But you know what I mean? Share it online. You can get the video out there so other people can see this video, and indeed just share the link. gofundme.com/savejenny, or maybe uk.gofundme.com/savejenny. I don't know if that makes a difference. I mean, maybe we could be saving different Jennies in different countries. I've no idea. I don't think that's the case though. So our next video I want to tell you about is a small piece, a poem that's read to us by Wayne Jacobsen. Now, if you don't know who Wayne Jacobsen is, he is a marvellous writer of many great books, but he's not here to read anything from his books. Oh, no. He's a pastor and a leader, and he's the guy behind livestream.org, a big American, the network there, and the writings he's done. He's done so many books there, but he is here to read for us one of Jenny's poems. So, ladies and gentlemen, Wayne Jacobsen.
Jacobsen, and I consider myself a friend of Jenny's, though we've never met. We've corresponded a bit over the last decade, however. She'd been deeply touched by a book that I had written called He Loves Me, which helps people discover just how loved we are, even in the midst of this very broken age. And Jenny's asked that I would read one of her poems for you, and I'm going to attempt it here. This is Gethsemane by Jenny Rowbory. I close my eyes. My translucent form drifts into the past, and I'm back in that garden with you. My ghost self glides into your body, occupying the exact place in time and space as you. Kneeling here, we reside within each other. My heart cradles your heart, beating as one. We wait together. The rest of the world falling still, distant and alien, while we hold our breath and try to beat back the panic. If it is possible, may this cup be taken away from me. We plead over and over, desperation and distress, overwhelming the soul to the point of death. Then the horror of reality. We are not going to be spared. We are not going to be rescued, not this time, not right now. We are loved, but we are not going to be saved from this. And it hurts. It doesn't feel like love. Each breath stings with grief. I know this territory well. My soul is the perfect companion for yours tonight. We hold on tight. Your heart cradles my heart. We are one in Gethsemane. If it is possible, may this cup be taken from me.
Yeah, so there you go, Wayne Jacobsen. That poem was Gethsemane by, of course, who else? Jenny Rowbory. There you go. It's in the book. You can find it in there. She says that Gethsemane is a written account, changed a little of an experience that she had with God in the early hours between Maundy Thursday and Good Friday one year, and thought that others might be helped by it as well. And now that's part of a Q&A that you can read on the website. Okay, the website is jennyrowbory.co.uk. Sorry, jkrowbory.co.uk. Get that one right, Paul. jkrowbory.co.uk. You can find the Q&A there. That Jenny has done with her brothers. Her brothers are Simon, who's a vicar at St John Keble College in Mill Hill, and Keith, who's a solicitor. And there's a Q&A there. Jenny goes into other details about the stories behind some of the poems that she particularly likes and enjoys, various TV she's enjoyed over the years and recommendations there, and interesting discussions there about how you make sense of a God who doesn't intervene in people's suffering. So well recommended. Get to jkrowbory.co.uk, find out more, read the Q&A, loads and loads of things there that you can have a look at as well. I wanted to read, let's have another little poem. We are going to close shortly. This finishes at 8 o'clock. It's now 6 minutes past 8 by my watch. So we'll be closing shortly. But I want to read you at least one more poem from the book before we close this book launch. This is Let Me In. You've all twizzled layers of bubble wrap around yourselves, always unpopped, a barrier you never let me past. Only a blurred version of you can be seen from outside, a vague figure through frosted glass. You never let me see. You never let me see. Oh, daggers. Wow. I feel seen. That's what people say nowadays, isn't it? I feel seen. That's quite incredible. And before I may, if we have time, I mean, we always have time. We can make time, can't we? Read you as we close Spring, which is the piece I mentioned earlier, written for Tanya Marlowe originally, now here for all of us, and it's from the poem that gives us the title of the book. Before we do finish, though, some thank yous that we need to include. Jenny's parents have asked me to mention them, but actually the very first thank you is to them. Is to Jenny's parents, Anne and Ian. So basically, here's what I'm going to do for the thank yous: is it's in the book, but you need to get a copy of the book. And if you haven't got your copy of yours yet, you won't know who the thank yous are. So Jenny would love to thank her mum and her dad. I will leave you to get your own copy of the book to find out all of the wonderful poetic expressions that Jenny has put in to explain exactly what these marvellous people have done. But as you can imagine, Jenny's parents have been rocks throughout this, as well as getting all of these things going. Jenny's brothers, Simon and Keith, her nephews, Caspian and Felix, Tanya Marlowe, who she says has become like a sister to me over the last decade since we met on Twitter. I know Tanya's here as well, and Tanya's husband, John Marlowe, for his generosity, putting the book together, the ebook, the physical book of We Are the Winter People. Elliot Frisbee, who you saw earlier, talk about the audiobook and the process behind that. Anghara Price, who is the narrator on the audiobook, which you can now go and get for yourself. Jenny would like to thank Auntie Viv as well for believing in the poems to begin with. Karen Ackford for creating the front cover. There it is. Cousin David Rowbory for his time in updating the website and creating the web pages. And I know that James Cooper, who I know as well, is now taking over managing Jenny's website. So thank you to James. To Janet Wheeler, of course, for composing the piece of music that you heard earlier. And she also wants to thank Miss Ashford, both my English teacher and my drama teacher, she says at school, writing essays for English homework that enabled Jenny to find that first love of writing. And indeed, thank you to all the people who've already donated so generously to the fundraising effort. And of course, that goes on, that continues. So, of course, we thank those who will give. GoFundMe.com/SaveJenny if you haven't already. Do spread word of it. Do put it out there on your social media or on your emails. Let some people know about it. It's a great thing we can do. Thank you also to Dave Prosser. Now, who's Dave Prosser? He's here. He's right next to me. Dave Prosser is it's been making the audio visuals work. This is my house. Dave has come to my house to make this work because I'm so technically incompetent that basically I suggested we can get a couple of old baked bean tins and a bit of string and somehow broadcast to the world that way. Apparently not good enough nowadays. No, exactly. Lots of baked bean tins needed to make that happen. So Dave has been marvellous. Dave, you get your own round of applause. Dave, this is for you. There you go. There you go. He's just there. You can't see him. I could angle it down. Do you want? Should we spoil the illusion? Should we spoil? This is all set up. No, go on. There you go. Can you? The cables mean that there he is. There he is, right by the piano and the Avino. So there you go. Get the ball games back in shot. Well done. So the Sonoro members as well. So I'm probably mispronouncing that. Sonoro. Sonoro, who sound amazing, who sound much better than my pronunciation of their choir name. So thank you to all the members of that you heard earlier. Thank you to you watching this for your time and your support and everything. Many of you I know have been friends of Jenny for a while, and we thank you for that. Tanya says, we have time. Yes, we have time for the poem. Absolutely. We will read the poem before we go. Also, to buy the book, if I've not said enough times already, the book. You can go get the audiobook, the ebook, the paperback. I think the paperback is $8.99. The ebook is $6.99, and if you've got the Audible subscription, you can find the audiobook there. So I think that's the main things really. jkrowbory.co.uk is the website. Loads more there, including the Q&A. Christmas is coming up. This is the last day of summer. I mean, let's be fair. I don't know where you are in the country right now, but wherever you are, it's probably been quite hot today, and it probably won't be tomorrow. I'm sorry to break it to you. So, now's the time. Get those books for Christmas. You can fit them in your stockings. Buy them for your friends and family, Christmas, birthdays, or just to say, hello, I thought you liked this book. If you want any more evidence that these are poems of note, and they are. Jenny's a marvellous poet and a gift to us all. Here we go. This is Spring. It's the first poem of the book, and you might recognise a certain line in there. Winter is all around, but in this glade there is no ice or snow. Warm sunlight bathes us. My hands are filled with soft white petals that I shower over you like confetti. They brush your cheeks as they fall, melting into your skin, coming to settle gently upon the grief, loss and panic. It makes the heavy feel light for a little while. Here it is safe to sing of the hope of outdoor hair. What if the seasons are stuck for good this time, and spring never comes? We were never promised it would. Our bodies are covered in the welts and bruises from the kicks and punches of that unmade promise, the one we wish existed, the guarantee of a certain spring. We are the winter people, yet our hearts are made of snowdrops. I have nothing else to say apart from buy the book, support gofundme.com/savejenny. Thank you for watching. I've been Paul Kerenza. This is a party popper that I still can't get to work, but one day. Thank you for being here. That's the book. Good night.